Well, hello YouTubers, gold lovers. Mike here, welcome back to my channel and Smash-o-matic. In the last video, this thing actually got its name and I announced the contest winner for best name. Thank you for that. And not too long after that video, well, the video hasn't actually come out yet. This is like only a day later and it hasn't all been edited and uploaded to YouTube and all that yet. So that video hasn't actually come out yet for me, but it's out now for you, so enjoy. But in that video, and I'll put a link in the upper right-hand corner up here, so you can check that video out if you haven't seen it. I ran some really rich material through the old Smash-o-matic here. Well, young Smash-o-matic, because it just got its name yesterday. But I ran some really rich material through it that got out of an ore bin at an old mine that had shut down, and obviously that was the good stuff that they were going to run through their mill at the mine. And well, they shut the mine down, and that stuff's been sitting in that ore bin for, I don't know, 30, 40 years, probably 40 plus years now, growing weeds out of the top of it. Never went through their plant. Their plant's all falling apart, rusty. But yeah, that stuff's still sitting there, so I took a sample of it and brought it home with me, and, well, ran some through the Smash-o-matic in the last video and found quite a bit of gold in it. Well, I ran the rest of it through the Smash-o-matic earlier today, okay? And I will show you the results of that right now, because it's pretty amazing. Okay, guys, I so hope you can see that. I so hope you did. See those big chunks of gold right there on top of those black sulfides? Look at that. Look at that. This is going to be the first pan of 3 I ran. The rest of that material from that mine that I was talking about in the last video that I got from the ore bin, I ran the rest of it through the Smash-o-matic. It has a name now. And I'm panning it, and I'm like, what is this stuff that's coming out? Oh, that's gold. Look at that. That's gold. Those are big chunks of gold. Those are almost picker size. And I haven't even gotten rid of the bulk of the sulfides. It got down to the fine stuff I know is in there yet. Holy cow. This stuff is rich. We definitely have to go back and clean out that ore bin. Yes, indeed. And I got 2 more pans of this stuff to do. Okay, so this is the second of 3 pans. And again, I haven't even got to the fine stuff down there before the big stuff starts popping out. Got gold in here. There's a copper wire in there too. I don't know where that came from, but there's some gold in here. Fairly big chunks, almost picker size. And I know there's a lot of fine gold down under these sulfides, because I snuffered up the big stuff last time, re-stratified the pan, and there was some fine stuff there too. So yeah, okay, so let me get this stuff snuffered up, and we'll do the last pan. This is amazing. All right, are you seeing this? This is pan number 3. And again, I haven't even panned down to the small stuff. This is the big stuff peeking out. We got some wire gold in there. We got some almost pickers. And you know what? I'm seeing some blobs of copper in here. And I've seen a couple of wires too. I'm starting to think that's native copper, because there's no copper in my mill. It's all steel. And I've pulled all the steel out with my magnet. But yeah, there's a lot of gold here. Holy crap. A lot of gold. And there might be more trapped in these sulfides. I'm sucking them up too with my stuffer bottle. I'm getting it all. Wow. This is good stuff. Wow. All right. Those were 3 good pans of gold. I couldn't be happier with the way the Smash-o-matic is working. It ran through a whole lot of that material to get those 3 pans, more than I could run through the Mighty Mill in any decent period of time. And it just had no trouble with it. It didn't choke, it didn't bog down, it didn't self-destruct, so that's great. So yeah, couldn't be much happier with the way the Smash-o-matic's working. Yeah, where did I get that material? If you didn't see the last video, well, I'll put a link in the upper right-hand corner, because I talked a lot about that, where that material came from in the last video about the Smash-o-matic. Basically, it came from an old mine out in Wyoming that closed down in the 1980s. And their ore bin that was going to feed their mill, their own mill, was full of this material. It's the last material they pulled out of the mine before they shut it down, before the foreman come out and told the boys to go home. We're shutting the mine. So yeah, and that stuff is pretty rich. So I just took a small sample, about 4 or 5 pans worth, out of that ore bin. Next time Leslie and I are out in that part of Wyoming, we're going to clean out that ore bin because it's got some really good rich stuff in it. So going to bring it home, run it through the Smash-o-matic, and pan it out. And yeah, couldn't be much happier with the way the old Smash-o-matic's working here. Got some plans for it. I want to make it look as good as it works, because it looks kind of, well, rusty right now. And, you know, a little amateurish. So I want to, you know, pimp it out a little bit. I'm going to, well, first off, I've already started. I've got one upgrade on it already. I've got a power switch now. No more plugging and unplugging to start it up. Yeah, so this power switch, that's nice. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it all apart, and I'm going to sandblast the surface rust off of all the steel pieces, and then I'm going to paint it. Prime it and paint it. So, yeah, that's going to be a bit of a job, so let me get started here. Let me get started taking the old Smash-o-matic apart. Well, new Smash-o-matic, actually. It only got its name yesterday. That video hadn't even gone live on YouTube yet as I'm recording this one. So, yeah, so let me get the Smash-o-matic taken apart, taken to pieces. I'll start sandblasting it and get it painted, put it back together, maybe make a few changes to the base. Maybe a different kind of mounting plate that's easier to clamp down, because these clamps keep coming loose from the vibration. Maybe a few other changes too. We'll see. All right, let me get to work. All right, let me get started disassembling the Smash-o-matic so I can get started giving it its makeover. First thing I need to do, actually the first thing I need to do, yeah, I came up with a procedure for this and I'm already violating it. I got to loosen the set screws on the front bearing first. Yeah, I figured out that if I don't loosen the front bearing set screws before taking off these wing nuts, I can gall the shaft here, and then the bearing won't want to slide through this. The shaft won't want to slide through the bearing. And same thing when I put it together, I need to put it together and tighten down the wing nuts before I tighten these down, or I will gall the shaft. So, yeah, gotta follow the procedure. Gotta have a checklist here, I guess, like being a pilot. Make sure you do things in the right order. My wife's a former pilot, so I know about checklists. Alright. Yeah, I was shocked at not only how much gold there was in this stuff, and there's a lot of gold in it. There was a lot of copper too, and you know, I was really confused by that at first. I thought at first it was maybe native copper, which happens, it's a thing, but it was just too pure and uniform looking to be native copper in my mind. And I got to thinking about it for a while, and I thought, well, you know what, when they load the dynamite in the blast holes in the mines, they'll push the blasting cap in the end of a stick of dynamite, and then they'll run it down the length of the stick of dynamite, and they'll press the dynamite into the hole blasting cap first, and that hole may be 2 feet deep or more, and they may put in stick after stick after stick of it, so you've got, you know, maybe several feet of copper wire running right beside the dynamite in each blast hole. And when that dynamite goes off, it's going to pulverize, you know, that couple feet of copper wire in each hole, just absolutely pulverize it into small pieces and mix it in with the ore. And I figure that must be what I'm seeing with all the bits of copper mixed in with the gold there. Anybody out there who has a lot of experience with mining, let me know if that's a thing. You know, if you see copper wire from your blasting wire mixed in with your ore when you process it in your plant. There we go. Alright, yeah, a lot of surface rust on this. I'm not going to bother painting, you know, sandblasting or painting the inner part of it here. That gets sandblasted every time the thing's used, but outside that sealing circle, it could certainly use a little paint after I blast the rust off to preserve it. Let's have a look inside and see if the Smash-o-matic has suffered any real damage or serious wear after running all that material through it the last couple of days. Really, this hammer looks pretty good. This one looks pretty darn good. This one looks pretty darn good. There's a crack in one of my welds, but my welds aren't that great. This one looks pretty darn good. They're all a little rounded off. The sharp corners have been rounded over by all the rock I've run through it. And there's a little bit of stuff left in here that didn't get sucked out by the vacuum. Not much, not much. But yeah, the whole inside here is pretty sandblasted. They're no longer nicking the bolts. I've adjusted them so that they miss the bolts. So a lot of people have suggested I should switch to carriage bolts. Not a bad idea, you know, rather than using hex head bolts on the inside. But I've managed to move the hammers around enough that they aren't nicking the bolts. So I'm going to leave it as is for now. If I ever do a major rebuild on it, maybe I will go to carriage bolts or just weld studs in or something. So, alright. Everything's looking pretty good in spite of me running a lot of really hard rock through it lately. This thing is actually holding up good. I know sooner or later something's going to fail. This is really abusive environment in here. But for now, it's all working. Okay, let me take the main body of the thing off the mounting plate here. And then we can get started with our beautification process. Now, I was a little worried that these screws I'm using to hold it down to the plate would wobble out due to all the torque on them from the vibration, but so far they are holding fast. If they ever do wobble out, I'll replace them with bigger lag bolts or something. But for now, it's working really well. Disconnect it here from the belt, and then here we are. Here we are. This is probably an angle of the Smash-o-matic you haven't seen before. Right there. There's the drive pulley. Now, I didn't get started on taking this thing apart until the next day. So I filmed the first part of this video yesterday. This morning, the last video went live, the one I referenced in the upper right corner. So it went live, and already there's some good comments on it. Someone has suggested that I put a big flywheel on here to add inertia. So when I put in a large, heavy, or hard, especially hard rock in here, the motor doesn't bog down in the first few seconds of smashing it, because the inertia of all that spinning metal would do a really good job of keeping this thing going until the rock gets smashed into little pieces. That's not a bad idea. I will have to look into whether I can attach some sort of flywheel to this thing. And yeah, that is not a bad idea. I have some cast iron barbell weights laying around. Maybe I can repurpose one of them as a flywheel on the back if there's room to fit it on here. There might be. So yeah, this is how it moves, except a whole lot faster. And centrifugal force is going to hold the hammer straight out as it's spinning. The rocks are going to come. Do I have a rock handy? I don't have a rock handy. What do I have I can throw through there? Ah, here we go. So the rocks, let me put this nut down through the feed tube here. It's going to come down like that through the feed tube back there, and it's going to have to make its way through all four of these fast spinning hammers before it gets to the outlet at the front here. And by then, hopefully, it's been smashed into powder and will go right through the screen in the airstream, which I'm pulling through with the vacuum. So that's how she works. Okay, let's get started with the beautification. I need to blast all this surface rust off. I'm pretty sure the tube will clean up nice, the shaft, some of this other stuff, because it's fairly new metal. It hasn't been around that long. This thing though was sitting around who knows how long, decades maybe, rusting away before I picked it up and decided to repurpose it. So it's got some pretty deep pits in it from the rust, but I'll blast the surface rust off, and I'll probably prime the whole thing with rust reforming paint, and then decide on what color I want to paint it. On the last video, I suggested you guys, you know, give me some ideas on that, or at least talk me out of painting it gray. Alright? So, some of the ideas are starting to come in on what I ought to be painting it. Some of them are pretty good. You may change my mind. You just might change my mind. I'll let that video be out for a little while and read the comments, because I probably won't get around to putting the final coat on this for a couple of days at least, so I still got to blast the rust off and give it a prime. So, yeah. Then we'll decide what color to paint it. Okay, let's do a little sandblasting here. Clean this stuff up some before I paint it. Yeah, my compressor just came on. I'll let it recharge a little bit. So what am I using for sandblasting? Well, just a cheap sandblast thing that I bought years and years ago. And sand. Let me show you. So, what do I use for sandblasting? Well, I use actual sand. I mean, hey, you can buy, if you want to, expensive blasting media. That's not a problem, you know, go for it. But I have found that actual sand works pretty darn well just for blasting the rust off of steel before painting. And I just, you know, get, you know, like a 50-pound bag of sand at Lowe's or Home Depot. Doesn't cost very much. And I can run it through, you know, an 80 mesh sieve here. And get perfectly good blasting media cheap. So that's what I do. Here's your helpful hint for the day. And since I'm working in a bin here, I can recycle this sand. I'll re-sift it and reuse it again and again. Works great. See the difference between what I've done and what I haven't done so far? Not too bad. Alright, now that I've got the worst of the rust off of it, I'm going to paint it with rust reforming primer here. It'll turn the rust that's down in the pits that I couldn't get out back into metal and make it all paintable so that we can put the final coat on it. Put my mask back on for this. Took it off after I was done sandblasting, but don't really want to be breathing the paint. Get the edges here. Get a good coat. Flip it over. The part on the other side that I need to do, then I'll do the main body of it. That actually didn't take very long. All that sandblasting went pretty darn quick. Might as well paint this down here to match, I guess. And get those bolts too. Why not? Okay, I'll let that dry. I'll flip it over and get the other side. Then I'll get the main body. Yeah, so what top coat color do I want to paint this thing? Now, I suggested gray in the last video and invited you guys to change my mind. And well, as I keep trying to tell my wife, there is method to my madness, believe it or not. Yeah, she doesn't believe it either. But, I like gray because, you know, most of my last 6 or 7 vehicles in my life have been gray. When you get to my age, you've owned a lot of cars and trucks, trust me. Because, well, think about it. You got a blue car, you got a red car, you got a green car. When they get dirty, what do they look like? They just look like dirty red, blue, or green, right? So you got a white car, and it gets dirty. It just looks gray. Say you got a black car, and it gets dirty. Well, it just looks gray. I have found that gray cars can get very, very dirty and still just look gray. So, and because I'm basically either too busy or maybe too lazy to wash them a lot, I like cars that don't look dirty. So, yeah. Oh, got the camera downwind. That's probably not good. So, gray is my go-to color. Although at the moment I do own a blue truck. Well, it was a deal I couldn't pass up, okay? Back before trucks became so rare you couldn't find one. So, yeah, so that's why I like gray. This thing's gonna get really dirty. Really, really dirty. So, but that doesn't mean I won't take you guys' suggestions to heart. So I'm gonna finish priming this, and then once it's dry, I'm gonna start putting the top coat on. And we'll leave it as a surprise to the end to see what color I paint it, okay? Place your bets while you can. Alrighty. The Smash-o-matic has had its big makeover. I wonder, you know, sometimes it's hard to tell the age of my audience from the YouTube analytics. I'm sure it's probably a little bit older on the most part. But I wonder how many of you actually remember the Ronco stuff. Ron Popeil's Brainstorms and all those commercials back in the 70s for like the Veg-o-matic and the Chop-o-matic and the other stuff he came out with. Everything was O-matic. Well, it's Pocket Fisherman and a few other things. So when I saw that name, Smash-o-matic, it just, you know, was so nostalgic to me. I had to name it Smash-o-matic. Now, in the last video, I asked you for color suggestions for repainting it. I was going to go with gray. It's kind of my default color for stuff, but, you know, some of you guys had some good suggestions. A lot of people said paint it blue. Quite a few people said paint it black. But darn it, this is not a democracy, okay? We're not voting on this. You're just giving me ideas, all right? I think one lonely person came up with the idea for the color I finally painted it. So, if you're ready, time for the big reveal. Smash-o-matic is red! Fire engine red! Yes, one person suggested red, and I thought, red? Yeah. But then I got to thinking about it. It's like, hey, fire engine red. You know, it's like, you know, emergency, danger. Get out of my way, I'm coming through. You know, that's the Smash-o-matic. Yeah, with a little bit of gold lettering down here for emphasis about what the old Smash-o-matic is for getting gold. So yeah, gold lettering, fire engine red. Yeah, it's gonna get dirty, and the dirt's gonna show up, but you know, it's a working class machine. You know, it's proud of its dirt at the end of a hard working day. It was come by honestly. So yeah, I don't mind if it looks dirty at the end of the day. I considered painting the outlet spout gold too, but I thought that was just a little bit too gold membery.
Yeah. Yeah, baby. Yeah.
So yeah, we're just not gonna bother with that. So anyway, here's the new and improved, beautified, updated, makeovered Smash-o-matic. I hope you like it, because I got a feeling you're going to be seeing it a lot more in future videos. I've still got a little bit of material to process from our last trip out west, and the next time we go, I'm probably going to be bringing back, you know, literal tons of the stuff to run through the Smash-o-matic, since it works so good. Not that I'm retiring the Mighty Mill. You'll see more of that in the future. It's going to be used sampling out west. Also, I think I'm going to do another connector video with it, because it doesn't have a screen on the output. I can just dump it over and get stuff out. So I think I'm going to do another connector video with it, running different types of connectors. So watch for that in the near future, okay? And, hey, I hope you found this video interesting, educational, informative, inspirational, killed some time, whatever. Give it a like, give it a thumbs up, and subscribe to see all my future videos, some of which will star in the Smash-o-matic. And check out my second channel, Electric Geek 64. Very interesting stuff going on over there, especially if you're into retro computing or electronics, so check that out. And thanks a lot for watching this video. I will see you in the next one. Bye.